Behold, even the avoidant woman threw herself, wide open and wet, at the regal alchemist with the full sack. I do have a bias toward beautiful women who do what I say and when I say it. I do have a bias for that. Does that make me misogynistic? Perhaps. I don't know. But I will say that that is a preference. Now, as the Chinese proverb says, it is for those who have no preferences, the great way is not difficult. It's difficult to not have any preferences when one of the reasons that you're doing celibacy or you're on semen retention or whatever the case is, when you're just trying to be more pure per se, right? If you have a desire of wanting to still be attractive to women, you're not going to be sexier to women. Now, it's not to say that, at least on a spiritual level, whereas you might look better physically and maybe even emotionally because you can give them those highs and lows that they so desire, the emotional roller coaster. But a lot of the times what people don't understand is that healthy relationships are kind of boring. You know, they're not too exciting, right? There's not a whole lot going on that's chaotic because it's just, you know, it's much like plain chicken. You know, relationships are kind of like plain chicken. And the only reason that I've been thinking about it like this is because I've been eating a lot of plain chicken recently. And the plain chicken that I'm eating it with asparagus with a little bit of salt. So I do have a little bit of salt there, but other than that, I've been eating pretty much plain chicken and asparagus for lunch and, for the past like week or so. And I thought to myself, this is exactly kind of like a healthy relationship. Healthy food shows you what a healthy relationship is supposed to kind of be like to some degree. If you need extra spices and all of this stuff, it's not to say that it's wrong. It's not wrong to want extra spices, but if you want all of these things that are going into your relationships, are you really being, grounded, or are you still wanting outside forces to kind of influence what's already there? And this is where I would say that Plato, who I've been studying a lot recently as well, when it comes to not just the forms, but also the diet and justice in general, like what justice is, it seems to me that the proclivity that we have to make this astute assumption when it comes to what relationships are supposed to be like, it's actually a hindrance and a deterrent to our own inner growth with other people. Because let's say this, right? Let's say you want to be sexy. Who doesn't want to be sexy, right? It's only when you give up being sexy that you begin to be more sexy. Because you're not really caring about being sexy, you just are. And I don't think a lot of people realize the responsibility that it has. Like people, there's a hello bee, or wasp or whatever it is. So there's a great responsibility that comes with being more attractive. And a lot of people will say, well, it's all about looks and money. And it's like, well, yes, in some way those play factors, but the full Sakian man who has embodied godlike mastery or is on the path of godlike mastery, regal academia, these types of things, that man is simply being who he is. And that's the most attractive thing that you can be or do, is just to be who you are. But it's not necessarily all sunshine and rainbows and lollipops and sugar and spice and all things nice, right? That's the thing, is life is suffering. And while that's an axiomatic truth, I think that the depth of that axiomatic truth is not so. What is that even sexiness is a construct. Okay, personality is a construct. Now, there will be many people that disagree with this, or maybe they don't understand. That's fine. You know, you still think that you're someone because, well, I've been told enough that I'm someone, so I've got to be someone. And it's like these women who, I mean, when I say they throw themselves at you, I don't literally mean that they're going to throw themselves just, you know, like they are, but they're not. They're going to do it in their own way. Because a woman who throws herself at you and is actually hyper aggressive, like sexually, with whether it's verbally or with her body toward you, she's usually got some kind of, she's got something going on. Whether it's a BPD, whether it's narcissism, whether it's another boyfriend, or she's got a husband, you know, like women like that who are hyper aggressive, they usually know what they want, and that's great, right? And a lot of men will say like, well, but I want to know a woman. I want a woman to know, you know, what I want, and I want a woman to just be more direct. Dude, it's not going to happen, at least not in the beginning. It's just the case that you have to be the one to put forth that effort. And a lot of men, let's say this, right? Let's say you want to be sexy. But when you start to become sexy as a full Sakian man, you kind of really don't really care to engage with women. You like who you're becoming, you like what you're doing with your life, but you kind of like the attention. Well, then that's something that you need to look into as far as a mother wound. This is coffee today, by the way. This is nice and fresh coffee. I drink my coffee black. A lot of people, they like to have all this, you know, cream and sugar and all that, and that's fine. But I like to just go snappy right into it. And I don't know, maybe it's just the old man sage in me, but that's just kind of what I like. Anyway, you got to look at the mother wound, because the mother wound, if you are not healed with your mother, then the probability of you seeing a healthy woman and actually wanting to engage with her is very, very low, because you're going to try to unconsciously replicate the same psychophysiological environment that you grew up in, whether you know it or not. And that's just the case. You know, it's just the case that that's going to be the case. So what you can do as a full Sakian man who is learning how to cultivate this newfound power, because like Spider-Man's uncle said, Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility. With great full Sakian power comes great responsibility. I mean, this is where reading, you know, Plato or these older ancient stories like the Odyssey or the Iliad, which the Odyssey's coming out today/tomorrow, depending on when you're seeing this, July 16th and 17th. And I'm going to go see it. I'm going to go see it. I really love the Odyssey. I love the Iliad, but I really love the Odyssey. Like, the Odyssey was one of the first books that I read after my spiritual awakening, you could say. Because I read it in college, but I really didn't like it. And then when I read it outside of college, I was like, way more invested into the story, and just it was so beautiful. Like, just the father coming home, right? And I really liked that aspect of it, because there's just that traditional, you could say, not necessarily patriarchal, but that like masculinity quality really just coming home to his home after war, after years of war, because it's like 10 years, the story is thousands of years old, so I'm not really giving anything away, but the story is just so old, but it's just a great, fascinating story about, well, I mean, I don't think it's even what it's about that necessarily is what's so impressive. It's what the symbols in the story represent in regard to our own psychophysiological development. And Penelope, who, yeah, that's the name of Odysseus's wife, she is like the epitome of femininity. Like, she is, in the story, in Homer's Odyssey, she is the most loyal wife of like history, man. Like, that, if there was any woman, like, screw Nicki Minaj, screw what's her name, Barbie B, Cardi B, same difference. All of these other, like, Taylor Swift, all these stupid celebrities, and I don't mean that like, I don't mean that in the sense that they're stupid. I just mean that, like, what they represent is stupid to me, because it's retarded. Okay, it's just retarded. But anyway, Penelope, though, she is the epitome of a loyal woman. She has complete trust in Odysseus, even after 10 years of being gone. Like, to me, that's a sexy woman right there. A woman who, Odysseus is the king of Ithaca, right? He comes home, and, well, I won't say too much regarding that, but even though I'm not really giving anything away, but the point is that Odysseus tells her what to do, and she does it, and she stays loyal, and she has full faith and belief and trust in Odysseus, because Odysseus has already proven himself, because he just is who he is. Odysseus, for all intents and purposes, was an OG full Sakian. That dude was an OG, like, what's a good, like, Odysseus's, anyway, I was trying to think of a funny little term to name Odysseus's full sack. Like, full Sachiavelli, right? We've got full Sachiavelli. Somebody in the comments talked about Sachilles. We've got full Sachilles. Man. Super funny. There's a whole bunch of other people that have been very creative and just very funny with their symbolism and their vigor and their zest. I'm glad that that's been the case, because that's what I want to see. I want to see more creativity and just positivity, and reaching also toward something deeper simultaneously, because there is that responsibility that we all have as full Sakian men who, we see through the BS, and it's not necessarily easy. But something I've also thought about recently was, a lot of people choose to be alone on this path, and there's nothing really wrong with that, but you have to ask yourself, are you choosing to be alone because you don't want to be triggered by other people? Or are you choosing to be alone because you are actually practicing godlike mastery, and you're actually, being who you set out to be with Regal Academia in mind? I mean, these are the types of things that you have to think about, but also not think about. Let go of trying to think about things and trying to be a certain way, and simply let go of all the personality, the construct, the desires, and be in desireless action. The Bhagavad Gita talks about this And Jesus Christ talked about loving your neighbors as yourself. You know, these are all stories, and these are all teachings that we can embody. I mean, that's really one of the biggest things I'm going to see this movie, is because I haven't been to the movies. Golly, I haven't been to the movies for a long time. What was the last movie I saw? I think Napoleon, which I basically walked out of because I was so that movie was absurd. Uh, the sunken cost fallacy, stuck in at about the halfway point, and I was like, ugh, I don't really care to to be around this movie anymore. It was not a particularly great rendition of Napoleon, which, oh, that was a few years ago. But I haven't been to the movies for a while, but I want to see Odysseus and the Odyssey. Uh, Another Christopher Nolan film, of course, as well. I like Christopher Nolan, but what he's done with this, I'm not quite sure what he's doing. I'm not quite sure what he's up to, but I'm going to go find out. I'm going to go see what's going on, because it goes to show where we are in the spirit of the time. Like, these old stories that are being retold in new ways really demonstrate where we are in the spirit of the time and what we have to look forward to, and how we can really embody these teachings of these old stories in a new way. Because that's, I think, what ultimately this is all about, is how can we embody the greatness of being without dismissing the disgusting, degenerate qualities of life sometimes. So, with that being said, I trust this message reach those that have eyes to see and ears to hear. Apply to my Godlike Mastery offer if this is resonating with you and you really want to make that full financial and spiritual investment into yourself. Otherwise, you can join the Regal Academy, and we have the standard tier and the premium tier. Standard tier is giving you access to all of the basic classes and the community itself. The premium tier is more for people that want to go that extra mile, get extra videos, exclusive videos, as well as the group calls and other classes. So, peace be with you. Be blessed. Until next time.